coming to life.
He still takes the field? Yep. Love it. Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W, so gotta be around the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checker. You're fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby! Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the best start here, bud. Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job. Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend. What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.
And welcome back to Racing in the Draft. My name is Mark. Welcome to a live Saturday night show again. Last week was nuts. Sorry for all of the live, startups or whatever YouTube was doing or whatever my computer was doing. Yeah, every time it got connected and disconnected from the internet, it would start and stop, and I ended up with 8 different live videos that lasted 2 minutes and could never stay connected to the internet. Either way, hopefully you got a little bit out of my, video that I did. I don't know. Wyatt, what's up, buddy? Thank you for the kind compliment. And yes, we are back home, ready to go for another road course. Back-to-back weekends of road course racing. Not my favorite, but I tend to do well on DFS with it. And in fact, the Xfinity race today, other than the other, 36 drivers, the 2 drivers up front made that one heck of a race. It's quite incredible to watch 18 or 19-year-old Connor Zilic take on 30-something-year-old SVG, who both of them in their own right are just unbelievable road course racers. And it was a lot of fun to watch, and I actually ended up doing really, really well in my DFS. So very happy to have that. And last week was, it's Chicago. It's a street course. It was entertaining. SVG kind of stunk up the show again, but there were some entertaining moments throughout the race. Carson Chaos Hocevar made it chaotic at the beginning, to say the least. But welcome back to a Saturday night where we get to break it all down and take a deep dive into what we think and not think about our lineups for this week. So I appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button, and let's get into it. Last year's Toyota Save Mart 350 from Sonoma, Kyle Larson got the win. Tire strategy / fuel strategy ended up being the winner. Yeah, Sonoma this weekend, we've got still fairly new pavement. It's a year and a month old or something along those lines. So it's gotten worn in a little bit. But after watching practice and everything, an Xfinity race in practice, the track is really, really slick. The grip level has vanished from it, to say the least. Practice and qualifying times were anywhere from 2 seconds to 3 or 4 seconds off. And it really kind of took the Cup and Xfinity drivers by surprise when they first showed up. By the time they got to qualifying, they had made some adjustments and things had started to tighten up a little bit. SVG still stole the show in qualifying, like he always does, but he is one of the best in the world at that type of racing. So no real surprise there on our pole sitter for this weekend. But there are a lot of other, I don't remember ever seeing as many spins in practice as I saw in today's practice for the Cup Series. Now, we fast forward a little bit to the Xfinity race today, and they kind of had the same issue in their practice, but crew chiefs and crews and drivers adjust really, really quickly. That's why they're some of the best in the world. And we ended up having a really competitive Xfinity race, at least middle of the pack. In the front was very competitive with SVG and Connor Zilic. It's going to be fun to watch the two of them go at it next year in the Cup Series. But we have this year to talk about, and let's get into it. Tire wear, handling, balance on race cars will be kind of a major factor. And Sonoma's very technical. It's a very difficult place to drive because of the technical aspects of it. Lots of elevation changes. There is room to pass, but not as much passing opportunities as Watkins Glen or those type, or even last week at Chicago. There were probably 4 different passing spots where Sonoma really has 2, maybe 3. But yeah, it's a little bit more of a track position type of race. But SVG getting his second of 3 Cup wins at the Chicago Street Course, and he has 2 Xfinity wins, so they've had a total of 6 races there, and he's got 4 of the 6 wins. Yeah, he is that good. Either way. All right, optimal lineups from Chicago's Street Course. I did not expect Austin Hill to do as well as he did, and I think part of that had to do with attrition. I mean, he still had to finish top 10, and he did that, and it was a good job by him. Chase Elliott, that was kind of an easy no-brainer to pick. Denny Hamlin, I didn't expect him to finish 4th. I thought he'd finish somewhere in the teens, kind of like with Chase Elliott, but Denny Hamlin ended up finishing 4th. SVG leading 26 of the 75 laps. Starting from the pole, finishing in 1st. Not a real big surprise there, and I kind of said, hey, if you're building lineups pretty much in the top 10, now we see Ty Gibbs there, yes, who started in the top 10 and finished in 2nd for the 2nd year in a row. But it was pretty much pick your winner and pick your winner out of the top 10 and run that and that only, and then everything else should be something place differential. And for the most part, it was. Ty Gibbs was the only one who really wasn't. But I'll take it. It's still, I didn't think Austin Hill would do as well as he did. So, and Zane Smith actually has turned into being quite the little road course racer too. And he actually had a pretty good practice session today, and not the best qualifying. So we may have some opportunities there with him tomorrow. AJ Allmendinger, Ross Chastain, Tyler Reddick, Kyle Busch, Alex Bowman, Ty Dillon. How about Ty Dillon with a 20th place finish, and moves on to the Elite 8 of the championship, or the in-season tournament, whatever they're calling it. And Catherine Legg starting 33rd, finishing 19th, her best NASCAR finish so far. So congratulations to her, even though she still thinks she ended up having significant issues towards the end of that race. But slowly but surely, she is beginning to improve. And then we got to this week, and practice was not kind to her at all. Either way, optimal lineup challenge after 19 races. We're almost done with the regular season. It is moving and moving fast. We are on the cusp of being in the playoffs. It's crazy. Kyle Larson, Ross Chastain, Alex Bowman, all with 7. William Byron, Ryan Blaney, Denny Hamlin, Chase Elliott, all with 6. And then we've pretty much now filled the board. So we have filled the board by race 19. Every year, this board gets filled faster and faster. Either way, we head to Sonoma and wine country. Oh yeah, Connor Zilic, who won the race, I think he's either 18 or 19 years old, had to drink apple juice today in Victory Lane because he can't drink the wine. He's not old enough. I don't think we have anybody under 21 racing tomorrow. So if they win, they can drink the fruits of grapes. This is another road course. It is 1.99 miles in length. There are 12 turns, 110 laps. Dominator points, still, I mean, this is almost a rinse and repeat. It's the same thing we've talked about at COTA. It's the same thing we talked about at Mexico and last week at the street course in Chicago. Dominator points, I mean, when you only have 110 laps, you can dominate, but it doesn't give you a whole lot of points towards DraftKings. So, not the biggest factor in the entire world. I mean, if you get, an SVG that can lead 30 to 40 laps, it definitely helps and pads to a good finish. But he could literally lead 40 laps and go from starting on the pole to finishing in 12th, and he's not even going to make probably the top 15 in DraftKings lineups. Other courses to go back and revisit on potential how they raced and things like that: Sonoma, Watkins Glen, Coda, Mexico Road Course. You can even put the street course from Chicago in there because it's right and left turns. But true road courses would be the 4 listed here. Family Man, what is up? I've noticed 2 value drivers in each of the past 2 road courses. I wonder if that trend continues. Yeah, that would be my guess, especially because if you are going to take or think that SVG is going to be in the optimal lineup at $12,500, you definitely are going to need to find some value picks. Go back to Chicago, we still had $800 left over, but the value still came into play with or without SVG. But I mean, you still needed SVG in the optimal lineup at 62.3 points. But Austin Hill still scored 56 points, even at 5,300. So sheerly on, well, I guess the $6,000 Zane Smith, you could have replaced 3 other drivers if the pricing had not mattered. So yeah, Zane Smith would not have made, depending on pricing, Zane Smith could have been taken out if these other drivers had been less expensive. There were 3 other drivers that scored higher than Zane. So yes, you could say Austin Hill was value, absolutely. But even if he was priced up a little bit, it kind of gets screwy. But yeah, it takes 2. Family Man says, Family Man moved into the number 1 spot there, Wyatt. You got to chime in a little more. Somebody's taking your spot. I'm kidding. Thank you for being number 1 and number 2. Either way, I believe it was Custer and John Hunter in Mexico, and last week was Zane and Austin Hill. Well, we definitely are looking at Zane and Austin Hill, and I could go back, but I think it was Custer and John Hunter. I think you are correct about Mexico. I'm back, baby. Nope, it still says you're number 2. You are the SVG of today, and Family Man is Connor Zilich, battling it to the end. I'm kidding. You guys don't have to do that. I appreciate you chiming in, though. But yeah, I honestly, I think that you're still on point with how do we build these lineups. And as we look at past road courses, Sonoma from last year had 2 value drivers. A value driver is anybody under $7,500 in price, is how I've kind of, just for doing this for many, many years, it's $7,500 seems to be kind of the sweet spot. And honestly, you could probably even go down to $7,000 now, just the way DraftKings has priced things recently. But under $75,000 or $7,000 is considered value for anybody that doesn't play DraftKings a whole lot. And anything above that, your high-end drivers are $10,000 or $9,500 to $10,000 or more in price. And everybody else is kind of middle of the pack. So when I have 2 value drivers here, it's 2 drivers that are priced under $7,500 in salary cap. No dominators from last year's race, even though Chris Buescher did lead 32 of the 110 laps. You need to get to, my cutoff is 30%. You need to lead or have fast laps. And fast laps typically do not come into play at the road courses. It's much more laps led for dominators. And 32 didn't quite get there. It's close though, but because Chris Buescher came from 26th to 3rd, the place differential overrides any of the laps led. Wyatt, Did you watch practice? If so, who passed the eye test? AJ Allmendinger. Yes, you are back. It now says you're now number one again. AJ very quickly stood out to me as being someone. And then when I looked at the practice sheets and lap by lap sheets, AJ still stood out to me as like, oh, AJ's hit on something here. But we'll get to those lap speeds here momentarily when we get to the driver breakdown and practice charts and such. But the thing we want to look at here, and it's very similar to last week, it's 55 points. Really, it's probably about 55 points. It's really kind of be in that sweet spot of your high-end, more expensive drivers, $9,000, $9,500 and up, are going to need to score 55 points. The bottom top 15 in Draftkings points is going to be about the same as last week. It's about 33. But as we can see here, pretty much everybody was in the 50s from Watkins Glen from last year, which is very similar in the same amount of laps. Mexico from earlier, 53.25 and up. And Coda from earlier this year, 45, then 55, 54 points. So we're still talking the same kind of point structure as we did last week. And we'll kind of get into it. But once again, it's Dominators play a small piece to the pie that we're looking at. It's much more place differential and finishing position. And honestly, it's for a place like Sonoma. If we look at Sonoma last year, we did have Brad Keselowski 35th to 13th and Eric Jones from 38th to 19th. But I mean, 13th and 19th typically would not even be something that we would look at on an oval. But on a road course, because there's no Dominator points that are involved, they come into play. That and Eric Jones was $5,900, so he was absolute value, and so was Brad K. So, value drivers for Mexico, there were 3 of them. John Hunter, Cole Custer, and... No, there's only 2. I don't know why I've got 3 there. This is supposed to be 2. Hey, man, you are absolutely correct with 2. And then at Coda, we had 1 driver under 7,500. Noah Gregson started 17th and finished 8th. But $900, $900, $7,100, and $2,300 left over. So you can definitely leave some money sitting on the table. All right, top 15 in points and where they come from in the way of starting positions. Pretty much it's copy and paste from last week, and not much has really changed. Sonoma, 5 of the 15 drivers are coming from the top 10. 5 more drivers are coming from 11 through 20. And then 21st through 30th, it's 5 drivers. So it's very much front in top 20 starting spots or better, encompass at least 10 of the top 15 in points. And then if we look at the top 15 point total, on the bottom end, it's 30, 37, 27, and 33. So we're really, if we average it out, it's 33.1. So if we're going to try to target the top 15 drivers, your cutoff needs to be about 33 points. And that'll come into play when we get to the driver breakdown and we put them on the calculator to figure out what we think they might or what they might have to do to get a certain point total. It'll make more sense when we get there. But just remember 33 on the low end, and for the high end drivers, it's 55 points or higher. And then since we break it down with the top 5 drivers kind of coming from 1 through 10, 5 more drivers coming through 11 through 20, and then the other 5 to 6 drivers coming 21 to 30. We want to kind of figure out who's probably the best in each of those spots, or at least rank-wise. SVG, top of the board, starting from the pole. His rank is number 1. Ross Chastain would be the second driver in the top 5 starting spots, and then AJ Allmendinger. William Byron is still in play. I was not impressed with his practice speed. So, if you're thinking about who I was impressed with in practice and who I was not impressed with, I really was not that impressed with William Byron's practice speeds. They were a little inconsistent, and he seemed to have, I don't know, just something that seemed to be off with the eye test, as you put it earlier. So, Chase Briscoe starting in second, it's not there for me yet. And starting in second's too far up, in my opinion. He's a good little road course racer, but he's not to the caliber of SVG, AJ, even a Tyler Reddick or Christopher Bell. And then as we go back a little bit further, Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, Chris Buescher, I think absolutely are better than Chase Briscoe. No, he's starting up front. I don't think he will get up and around Shane Van SVG early in this race at all. The only way he's going to get it is going to be on pit stops. So, all right. Our driver breakdown. Shane Van Gisbergen, $12,500. He was $13,000 today for the Xfinity race, and Connor Zilic was $12,000. It was incredibly high priced, and actually, I ended up scoring really, really well today. But the lineup that beat me in one of the single entry lineups had SVG and Connor Zilic in it. They spent half of their money on 2 drivers, and it worked. But it still was not the optimal lineup. The optimal lineups only had one in, which was Connor Zilic, who led a ton of laps. SVG didn't really even lead a ton of laps today. He just sat in second and waited for the moment to try to pass Connor, and Connor was not having anything to do with that. But either way, our winner from last week, SVG, he won at Mexico. He's just really good at road courses. There's not much else to say about it. He was third in single lap practice. So anybody new to the channel, what this sheet is this line here matches with these 5 races. Sometimes they're all 5 races from the same track. So like a Martinsville, where we go twice a year and we have tons of data, we can use the last 5 races from a Martinsville. Whereas road courses, they only visit one road course. They only visit the road course once a year. So we just use the last 5 road courses. So out of those 5 last road courses, SVG has 2 wins. This is 3 top 5s, 4 top 10s, 4 top 20s. That can't be right. He does not average 131 Draftkings. There's something wrong with my calculations there. That is not correct. You don't do that at... Yeah, something's not right with that part. But 2.5 place average finish and a 3.9 average running position for SVG. He did not race the Sonoma Cup race last year, but did run the Xfinity race last year. He's got his total race history on road courses: 10 starts, 3 wins, 4 top 5s, 7 top 10s, 7 top 20s with an 8.9 average finish. Really, really good stats. But we've been bragging about him since the show started, so no guessing there. He's got 2 wins on the year. Can he make it 3? Good possibility. If he does, he ties with 3 other drivers with those wins. All right, our practice sheets and how the tire fall off and the car continued to happen. Now, because road courses take anywhere from a minute 20 to a minute 40 to get around, they don't get a chance to do a whole lot of laps. But AJ Allmendinger is going to be our constant. He'll be on every sheet that we look at. And then we have our average, which is the white color. And then Shane Van Gisbergen, who is the driver we're comparing to right now, is in the yellow. And it'll stay that way. Every driver sheet will be in yellow. AJ will be in the black. And the average will be the white. And the low end is 76 seconds, and the high end is about 80 seconds. So that encompasses this range right here. So it kind of gives you a chance to see how consistent they were, what their tire fall off was, and those types of things. It also kind of lets you know, it's even better to really kind of understand this on an oval. It can tell you how quickly a car, how well it's balanced, how well the car is set up, and those types of things. Road courses are a little bit different because you've got different passing areas, and you'll see some of these lines will have major spikes in them, and that typically is when they went off course, or they were slowing down to let another car who was practicing faster go around, those types of things. But pretty much AJ and SVG had pretty clean laps for most of their time. And as you can see, they were very, very consistent, very close together. SVG starting in first, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with. All right. This is our fun little calculator. Remember the points. It's 33 on the bottom end, 55 points on the higher end, and at $12,500, you definitely need SVG to get to that high end of 55 points. Well, if he starts in first, finishes in fourth, even if he has 10 fast laps and leads 24 laps, he doesn't make it. 47.5 points. So what does Shane Van Gisbergen need to do to get to 55 points? Well, he needs to finish in first, and he needs to lead 24 laps. So if you're going to put SVG in your lineups, and I will have SVG in some of my lineups, it'll probably be 35% of my lineups. He was in 60 to 65% of the lineups for the Xfinity race today. It was insane. I only had I think 38%. And then I had Connor Zilic in 40. And then I kind of spread out from there. But SVG probably will be 50% owned for tomorrow's race. I'm going to be a little underweight on that. He is that good. And if he scores in first, if he finishes in first, starts in first, and as long as he leads 24 laps, he's probably going to make the optimal lineup at 12,500. So if you're taking SVG, you're going to have to take at least 2 value drivers. You may even have to take a third, just for everything else to fit and work out. So and if you take the pole sitter with only 110 laps to win, there's not going to be any other dominator points. So as you can see, when we get to somebody starting in second, I mean, we can just change chains. You take somebody that's starting in third, and if SVG is going to finish in first, and he's going to lead a ton of laps, I mean, it's 48.5 points for somebody starting in third. Well, that's not going to cut it. So either way, SVG, if you're going to put him in your lineups, and I will have him in some of my lineups, because I think he's going to win. And if you think he's going to win, he's going to lead 25, 30, 40 laps. I think, as always, the tournament play is to go underweight on SVG. Yeah, no, absolutely, but you can't outright fade him either, because he did make the optimal lineup from last week. Started in first and finished in first. Now, the 35% that I had him in last week, they did fairly well. But if you didn't have him and he's in the optimal, yeah, you're SOL. So it's absolutely when you're building lineups, you almost have to hand build these lineups. And you just have to go, okay, in this lineup, SVG is going to win. Now, that's when you start to look around and go, okay, what else can get the points that I need for the dollar amount that I'm going to spend? And that's why I like to put everybody on the calculator, and we can kind of start to see what they would have to do to get to certain points. Kyle Larson, $2,000 cheaper. A $2,000 savings for Kyle Larson. And actually, $10,500 would be a normal price at most tracks for Kyle Larson. SVG is priced extremely high. I think he's $500 more than he was last week at 12. I think it was $12,000 last week. But Kyle Larson, $10,500, starting in 11th. He did win this race last year. SVG was not in the race, but Kyle Larson's also really good at road courses. Kyle Larson, ever since attempting to do the double, either is not the same Kyle Larson that was there before, or because they've got the 3 wins that are padding their playoffs, they're trying different setups and different combinations in their car, their pits, back at the shop, to see if anything happens to click that will help them in the playoffs. And that's very, very normal for Hendrick and Joe Gibbs Racing, is once they get to 2 or 3 wins, they're locked into the playoffs at that point. So why not do some experimentation on setups and build, when they build the cars, to, hey, let's move some pit crew people around, let's try some different pitch strategies. They're experimenting, so when they get to the playoffs, if they can find something that will make them a 10th faster anywhere, then they'll just put that in their back pocket for when playoffs come. And I think that's also what Penske absolutely does that. Now that Ryan's in, Joey's in, Austin Cindric's in, they're experimenting. They're doing different things before, during, and after the races to find just that slight edge. So Kyle Larson, I mean, they still want to win. That's still the number one goal, is to go out and win the races. But if they can find an edge while doing so, they will. Starting in 11th, he was 5th both in single lap and 5-lap consecutive average. 14 total laps practice. I don't think the most laps were like 17. So we're going to be much more concerned about, realistically, it's the 5-lap average that I'm probably paying more attention to than anything. It's one thing to go out and run 1 lap fast. It's a different thing to run 5 consecutive laps fast. That typically shows that you've got something. In the last 5 races that we're comparing to, 1 win, 1 top 5, 1 top 10, 3 top 20s out of the last 5. 18.9 average running position, and the Draftkings points are absolutely wrong. Something must be messed up in my math or in the algorithm that I'm using. I need to go back and look at it. Finished in first last year at this race, 41 total road course starts with 5 wins to his record. And I mean, pretty much 25% of the time he's finishing in the top 5, and even more than that, top 10, 27 of 41 starts in the top 20 with a 15.1 average finish. Let's look at his practice speeds. Very consistent, not a whole lot of movement. That's what we kind of like to see. A little bit of fall off. He goes from 77 to 77.5 over 13 laps. Very similar. AJ fired off a little bit faster, and they kind of both ended up being about the same speeds. Kyle Larson, very, very good option. Starting 11th, we've got plenty of room we got some room to run here. Place differential here is going to be tough to get. It's going to happen a lot on either restarts or pit strategy. So starting 11th with the wins that they've got, they'll pit before the end of each stage, and they'll maintain track position once the stage restarts. So Kyle Larson get the 3rd, doesn't quite cut it. It's 51.25 points. 2nd gets real close. That's with 5 fast laps and no laps led. So finishing 2nd probably gets him there. if SVG wins, Kyle Larson's in play, but now all of a sudden you've used 23,000 of your 50,000 in salary by taking the two most expensive guys. It's doable, but it's a little bit on the tough side. So just kind of keep that in mind. Kyle Larson's definitely in play. I will definitely have some ownership in him. I also think that he's capable of winning. He won it last year. So if he happens to finish in first, he's going to lead a few laps if that's the case. We'll give him a small amount, 5. So from 11 to first, 5 laps led, 5 fast laps gives him 58.5 points. Definitely over the optimal line that we're looking for. He's definitely in play. Now, if that happens, you probably, if that's the thought process you're going with, you want to definitely take SVG out. Because even finishing in second for SVG, unless he leads, 70 laps or something, which is going to be really hard to do, then I say it's really hard to do, but were the stage breaks for tomorrow? Let me pull it up real quick. I think it's like 30, 40, and 40. 25, 30, and then 55. The last stage, definitely they're going to need to stop in the middle of. They won't build. They can't run the whole 55 laps at the end without a pit stop. So let's see. Let's get this back. Okay. So Kyle Larson's definitely in play. It's going to be tough to fit Kyle Larson and SVG in the same lineup and still get some of the more expensive drivers that I think probably can finish better than the two of those together. All right, let's move on to our next victim, Tyler Reddick, 10,300, starting in 8th. We're going to have the same type of issue here with Tyler Reddick. If you're taking SVG, it just changes everything because it's too expensive. But Tyler Reddick, 10,300, starting in 8th. He was 9th in practice for single laps and 10th for 5-lap consecutive average. 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 4 top 20s in the last 5 races at road courses. He's got an 11.5 average finish for his total race history. He's got 3 wins on road courses. 22 out of 29 starts, he's finished in the top 20. Well, if he's starting at 8th, we need him to finish at least top 5. So, about the third of the time, he's finishing in the top 5. And he finished 8th here last year, starting in 8th. And he qualified 9th, or he practiced 9th and 10th. Out of all the road courses, Tyler Reddick seems, this one, he struggles at a little bit more than some of the other ones. Just that, and I don't know if the whole lawsuit thing's really started to affect 2311, but they have definitely struggled this year. So let's look at his practice speeds. They're not bad. They're better than average. They're not as good as AJ's speeds. They weren't as good as Larson. They're not as good as SVG, but they're also starting. Larson's starting a little bit further back, but I mean, I don't mind the Tyler Reddick play. I don't love the Tyler Reddick play. So if I'm running 40 different lineups, I will probably have Tyler Reddick in about 8 to 10%. So 3 to 4 lineups, I'll have Tyler Reddick in. I just am not really that sold. And starting in 8th, it's do you think Tyler Reddick is going to beat SVG? Well, everything that I'm currently seeing on speed charts and watching practice, there wasn't anything super special. So if he leads 20 laps, finishes in first, it's 57.9. Now let's back that down to 10 laps, 55.4. So it's over the 55, so Tyler Reddick's going to need to finish in first and lead 10 laps. If he falls to third, he's under 50 points at that point. And at 10,300, that's real tough to get into. It's top 15 in points, but it's not going to make the optimal lineup. And substitute him out for Larson, who doesn't have to win. He can finish in second behind SVG and still get real close to an SVG with a win. So, and that's kind of how I look at building these lineups. And it really comes to, do I think Tyler Reddick will win? Well, probably not. So should I have him in a lot of my lineups? No, probably not. There is an off chance that he does win, which I'm not taking completely off the table. He's won 3 times on road courses out of 29 total starts. 10% of the time he's winning. I didn't see anything with these practice speeds that I thought was special. So, yeah, they could have a great pit stop. Somebody else could have an issue, and they could still get a win. I just think the hill's a little tougher to climb. William Byron, $10,000 starting in 3rd. Man, you want to talk about a rough patch. William Byron has been on the struggle bus the last 4 weeks. Realistically, Hendrick has been kind of on a struggle bus other than Chase Elliott's win at Atlanta. Hendrick has definitely kind of been off, but I covered that just a little bit ago. They've all got their win. Well, I guess Bowman doesn't have a win yet. So, if anything, there's going to be more time and resources put behind Bowman over the next 7 races. So just expect Bowman to run very, very well, where William Byron's got his win. He's in. He's in. He's doing fine in points. He's not going to lose that. There are other guys that are further back. And now that SVG's got 2 wins, he's definitely in the playoffs. But William Byron starting in 3rd. He was 11th in single lap. He was 8th in 5-lap consecutive average. He was in the first practice group. He wasn't in group 2. He was in group 1. But on road courses, he's been hit or miss. He has a 23rd place average finish over the 5 races we're comparing to recently. His 2 wins came at Coda last year, and I want to say the Roval, if I remember correctly. I can't remember exactly where William Byron won his second one, but he's okay on road courses. He's not, in my opinion, great. 35 total starts with 6 top 5s, 14 top 10s, and 23 top 20s. It's not shabby, but it's not great. And then we looked at his practice speeds, and AJ's much faster than him, and William Byron's starting in 3rd. So I'm going to put him in the same boat as Tyler Reddick. Am I going to be an absolute fade on William Byron? No, probably not. But am I going to have him over 10%? No. I'll have him 5 to 10%. So if I'm running 40 lineups, I'll have him in 2 to 4 lineups. So it's too. Last week he started in 38th and still lost 2 points. Just because you start towards the back doesn't mean you're going to have a great day. And now starting in 3rd, he absolutely has to finish in 1st. And if he only leads 1 lap, it's 47 points. At $10,000, that doesn't quite cut it for the optimal lineup. So he's going to need to start in 3rd, finish in 1st, and lead 15 laps. And that still only gets you, he'll have more than 1 fast lap. He'll have at least 5. That's 53 points. That's still not to the 55 points that he probably is going to need to be in the optimal. So this is where it gets real tough. If you think William Byron's going to win, you'll get some salary relief because you shouldn't put SVG in both a William Byron and SVG lineup. You can if you want, but me and a lot of other people will be more than happy to just take your money. Because the math does not work. So he's going to need to lead to get to that 55 points. He's going to need to lead 25 laps probably. Yeah, 23 to 25 laps. I don't see it. The math just doesn't work out correctly. Can he be in the top 15 points? Sure. Let's say he finishes in let's say he finishes where he starts, but only leads 4 laps because of stage breaks. He stays out. I mean, that's 44.25. It's above the 33. It's top 15 in points, but it definitely doesn't play for an optimal, not at $10,000. So that's why I probably won't have much ownership in William Byron. Chase Elliott, 9,800, starting in 13th. He is the winningest current active driver on road courses, but has 0 wins in the next gen era on road courses. But in the last, he's still one of the most consistent. He's got a 9.2 average finish over the last 5 races we're comparing to. And for his total career at road courses, he's got a 9th place average finish. In practice and qualifying, he was in the teens. Qualified in 13th, practiced in 15th, and 5-lap average in 17th. Not superb. They'll be fine. They'll get it figured out. They'll get to a top 10. Might even get to a top 5. Could potentially even win. He's never won at Sonoma before. Out of all of his 7 wins, he's never won Sonoma. And his practice speeds were slightly better than average, but still nothing close to SVG, Kyle Larson, or AJ Allmendinger. So just by practice speeds, that's not going to cut it. They'll improve as the race day goes on. That is the one thing that the 9 team always tends to do. They always improve throughout, most of the time throughout a race. They'll improve. They'll move up. He'll get himself probably a top 10, maybe even a top 5. Well, if that's the case, what is that going to give us? Put it on the calculator. Started 13th. If he finishes at 9th, which is his average, it's 39.9 points. Well, that's not going to quite cut it. He's going to need to get to 4th. Nope. 3rd. Definitely 3rd or slightly better. Now, if he has 5 fast laps, let's say he leads those. Let's say this is one of the scenarios. SVG leads a bulk of this race, wins the race, but hits early for stage breaks. Chase Elliott stays out for points. I'm not sure why he would do that at this point, but he could, and gets 4 of those laps led at 54.25 at 9,800. That probably is close enough to the 55 points to make the optimal lineup. And at 9,800, it might play by finishing in 3rd. So anything better than 3rd. So what you're potentially looking at, and this doesn't work math-wise, is an SVG in 1st, a Kyle Larson in 2nd, and a Chase Elliott in 3rd. All 3 of those end up playing. They're all starting in the top 13. We don't have a whole lot of place differential involved here, but all 3 of those end up playing. Now the problem is you have now spent 30 some odd thousand. You've got less than 20,000 for 3 more drivers, which is an average of $6,000 per driver. It can play. A lot of things have to go correctly for that to happen. So it's really tough to put a Chase Elliott, Larson, and an SVG all together in a lineup. But you could easily take an SVG and Larson or an SVG and Chase Elliott. Both of those absolutely play. And all Chase Elliott has to do is get to 3rd. So 1 spot less than what a Larson does. Ty Gibbs, 9,500. This is the one that I think potentially could upset the apple cart for SVG. He's really good on road courses. He's good at Sonoma. He is starting in 6th. He's was 2nd in single lap, 3rd and 5-lap consecutive average. He finished 2nd last week at Chicago Street Course. He absolutely could upset the apple cart and get himself his first win. All things are pointing that Ty Gibbs is going to get a win sooner than later. And I know I've been saying it for over a year and a half. But we're getting to the point to where it's really close. You can only continue to knock on the door before the door gets answered. And this week could play. Now, he did go off course once in practice. Right here. So if we kind of take that out and we'll draw the line continuous, he's very close to an AJ speed. So I don't necessarily mind the Ty Gibbs thing because I also know that he's also really good at road courses. And if he gets the opportunity, I think he absolutely puts the bumper to somebody to get the win. He's it's past time for him to get that win. He won't be happy with him for doing himself for doing it, but I would completely understand if he decided to do it. So starting in sixth, once again, this is a scenario. So if you're running 40% of your lineups with SVG winning, that leaves you 60% of your lineups that SVG does not win. Well, if that's the case, then more than likely somebody else is going to win. Ty Gibbs potentially is one of those people. I would probably run Ty Gibbs in 20%. So that's kind of how the math is going to work for this is Ty Gibbs will be in 20% of my lineups, SVG will be in 40. That still leaves me another 40% to kind of spread around. I would rank Gibbs right behind SVG and Dinger. Yeah, absolutely. But because of where they're in this specific race, yes, absolutely. And in fact, AJ is really honestly my pick for this race tomorrow. SVG is the odds-on favorite. I mean, I think it's now at like, yeah, it's scrolling across the bottom right now. SVG is at plus 120. You never see that low of a betting odd for a race, for a driver to win a race. Like, even Max Verstappen in his heyday wasn't even getting that low of odds. Yeah, Dinger's practice times are really good. And if you just watch his practice, he just is. You didn't see him fighting the race car. He seemed really smooth behind the wheel. All the things. Yeah. He well passed the eye test. But they make mistakes. And, that's why I'm not going to run them in 100% of my lineups. So, if SVG is going to be in 40%, AJ is going to be in 30%, Ty Gibbs gives 20% of my lineups. That eats up most of what I'm looking at. Now, you can absolutely, because you're going to save a ton of money, you save $3,000 in salary cap by going from SVG to a Ty Gibbs. Now you could still run a Kyle Larson and a Chase Elliott, who both, if Ty Gibbs goes and finishes in first, we've already shown that Elliott and Larson play by getting second and third. So, 53.8 at 9,500 probably gets you in or very, very close to the optimal lineup. So, yeah, I definitely like the Ty Gibbs. I appreciate Michael McDowell's drive and wanting to call his shot for this weekend after last weekend just didn't quite work. I think his speed last weekend at Chicago was way better than what his speed was in practice. In fact, the entire Spire team, I think all of them spun in practice. They just did not unload with the right setups. They'll make adjustments, and Michael McDowell potentially will get up there. The problem is because this race is so dominant on place, your spot on the racetrack, it's just very hard to pass. That Spire and Michael McDowell are going to have to throw a little bit of wonkiness into their pit strategy. They've been more than willing to do that at many other races. And we're getting down to, where are we at? 7 races left? And the only way I see right now that any of the Spire cars get into the playoffs is by throwing some Hail Marys. And they absolutely will. They'll go off pit strategy to try to get it. So, Michael McDowell is definitely in play, starting in 15th, but he was 22nd and 18th in practice. And if we look at his practice speeds, I mean, he went off track here and he went off track here. Hartsovar did it also, and so did Justin Haley. All three of them went off track during the race. Michael McDowell, 93. Let's see, right? Starting in 15th, his average finish is 15th. Well, finishing and starting in the same spot don't play. But, you know, can he finish in 4th? Not leading laps, have 5 fast laps at 53.25. Sure. So, Michael McDowell's in play. He's as much in play as Chase Elliott or Kyle Larson because of their starting spots. We don't have to dig real far into place differential for this race. Sure, we could have some people in the 20s and 30s, but you don't have to go that far in place differential to make the points work, is what I'm trying to say. So Michael McDowell's in play. The problem is he's 9,300. He's expensive. And if you're thinking about running, you know, a Ty Gibbs, you can run a Michael McDowell and a Chase Elliott. Or Michael McDowell, Ty Gibbs, and Kyle Larson. Don't think you can run all 4, though. And then you've got Christopher Bell at $9,000, starting in 10th. He was 6th in single lap, 7th in 5-lap consecutive average. Historically, Sonoma has been a Joe Gibbs or Hendrick winner. Now, we've seen Daniel Suarez get a win, but this track it was dominated for a long time by Martin Stokes Jr. Kyle Larson has run really, really well here. It's typically been Hendrick and Gibbs cars that have run historically really well here. Now you got SVG out there. But Christopher Bell, $9,000. Starting in 10th, he's practice speeds 6th and 7 and 5-lap consecutive average. He finished in 9th in this race last year. He's got 3 total road course wins to his credit. His practice speeds were actually very, very good, very consistent. Was a little slower than AJ in the beginning, but was a little bit faster in the middle part of the 15-lap run, and then a little bit slower towards the end. So not bad at all. He was still better than average throughout most of it. He's good at road courses. There's room for him to run a little bit. It's a little tight. You know, can he finish in 2nd? 52.25 points. That the math works. It doesn't work real well. But you could at $9,000, you're starting to get a little bit of savings off of the SVGs and Kyle Larsons by going here. The problem is it's not going to fit because we already had Kyle Larson finishing in 2nd or Chase Elliott or one of those. But you could substitute Christopher Bell into that spot at 52 points at $9,000. And it does still fit, just not real well. All right, AJ Allmendinger, 8,800. He was 1st in single lap. He was 1st in 5-lap consecutive average. He has been the token child that we have watched all of practice so far this time. $8,800. He's got 3 total wins in his 47 total starts. He's got a win at Sonoma, I think in Xfinity. I don't think he's ever won the Cup Series here. But his practice speeds, once again, were really good. So I brought back Shane Van Gisbergen as the one to compare him to, and we can see they were very, very consistent, very close together. AJ's hungry for that win. He needs to get that win. Starting in 5th, it's going to take that win for him to be in the lineups. So, kind of like I was saying, it's, the 3 that I think have the best chances of winning, SVG, AJ, and then Ty Gibbs. And then there's a smattering of other guys that potentially could do it. But lead 10 laps, 3 fast laps, get you 52.85 points. That's pretty close. If he gets 5 fast laps and leads 15, 55 points. That's where we need to be. That's what you need to kind of set your lineup for if you think AJ is going to win. If you don't think he's going to win, even if he leads 15 laps and he finishes where he starts, well, that's 45 points. $8,800, that doesn't cut it. All right, our most consistent road course racer, Chris Buescher, had a little bit of an off week last week, but that was really not his fault. That was much more of some issues mechanically. $8,600 starting in 14th. Okay. 16th in single lap, 11th in 5-lap consecutive average. And like I said, when I say consistent, he's got a 7.8 average finish for the 5 races we're comparing to. Super consistent. Does have one win at Watkins Glen last year, where he did beat SVG at SVG's game. His practice speeds were a little bit off at the beginning of practice. They seemed to dial it in a little bit as the run went on, and was actually a little bit faster from 9 through 12 than AJ Allmendinger. Chris Buescher, all things considered, should absolutely be a top 10 finisher, starting in 14th. He's definitely in play at $8,600. Let's say he does lead those 4 laps for points and gets a 7th place finish, 45.9 points. At 8,600, that probably doesn't make the optimal lineup, but it's definitely the top 10 in DraftKings points. He plays. Good middle of the pack, but he's going to probably be decently owned. And he does have a little bit of cost savings. And he could absolutely still go out here and win this race. If he gets to second, starting in 14th, it's 56 points. Definitely in the optimal lineup if that ends up happening. Ross Chastain actually had a very good practice session. He's a decent road course racer. A little inconsistent, but he does have a win at COTA from 3 years ago. $8,400 starting in 4th. He practiced in 4th, both single lap and 5-lap consecutive average. Has a 9.4 average finish for the last 5 races we're comparing to, or a 10.3 average running position. Very, very consistent top 10. Starting in 4th, though, remember, you'd have to just write the story of him winning is really the only way he's going to make it into the optimal lineup. Practice speeds were really, really good. He was right there with AJ in practice speeds. Got a little wonky towards the end, lap 16, 17, but for the most part, very, very close to and better than average. So, but he's starting in 4th. That's kind of where he's supposed to be. So let's put him on the old calculator and see what we come up with. Start in 4th, and I say finishes in 4th. Doesn't lead any laps, it's 41.35 points. That doesn't play. So he's going to need to do better than that. Can he finish in 2nd, lead 10 laps? Maybe. I don't think he leads 10 laps though, to be perfectly honest. I don't see it. So it's very tough to put Ross Chastain in unless you think he's going to win. If you think somebody's going to win this race and you're built the storyline of any of these drivers winning, first off, it takes SVG out of the play. It takes probably AJ out of play. It takes, unless those are the ones that you say are going to win. But if you build the scenario, if you put Ross Chastain in your lineup, you're building the lineup that Ross Chastain is going to win the race. And then if that's the case, which I think is a little tough, to be perfectly honest, he's going to probably at least lead 10 laps at 51.85 points. That probably puts him in the optimal lineup at $8,400. I just think it's if I were to put it on the sliding scale, and I think SVG has a 40% chance to win, AJ's got a 30%, Ty Gibbs has got a 20%, we've got 10% left over to play with. I think Ross gets a 2% of that play. Maybe a 3% chance to win. So put him in 3% of your lineups. I mean, that's kind of how I think about it. Is if I give uh, SVG the 40%, AJ the 30%, Ty Gibbs the 20%, that there by itself eats up 90%. We got 10% left over to put towards a Tyler Reddick or Ross Chastain, those types of drivers. Now you could change your sliding scale if you think SVG's at 30% and AJ's at 30% and uh, Ty Gibbs is at 10%. Now you've got 30% left over to put towards other drivers. All depends on how you think you want to build your lineups. Alex Bowman, $8,200, starting in ninth. He was 21st in single lap, 19th in 5-lap consecutive average. He finished 15th in this race last year. Mr. Consistent, I mean, 10.8 average finish, 14th place average finish for his full race history. His practice speeds just were average at best, to be perfectly honest. Do I think he has a chance to finish where he starts? Yeah. I think it's a 7th through 12th place finish for Alex Bowman. The problem is, even at $8,200, I don't think that ends up playing. So even if he gets to the high of 7, and he has, let's say, 4 fast laps, which I think is actually a lot, that's 40.8 points. And I don't think he's going to finish any better than 7th. Well, he's 10 points away from making the optimal. He makes the top 15, but it's probably not going to place very well for any tournaments. Kyle Busch, $8,000, starting in 17th. He was 18th in single lap, 15th in 5-lap consecutive average, and he's starting in 17th. Seems to be about where he should finish and start. He's got a 17.8 average finish. He finished 12th in this race last year. And if we look at his practice speeds, there's not. Yeah, I didn't do that one. Why is that not there? Well, I can pull him up real quick. AJ. Surprised I didn't have this one. Sorry about that, guys. Kyle Busch is the one I'm looking for. All right. Here we go. All right, so Kyle Busch was better than average, but very consistent throughout his run. Ooh, that doesn't quite fit the screen, does it? Oh, that's right. Okay. A little big. Anyway. So yeah. Very consistent, actually. So we go back to look at that. Sorry, that one's definitely not right. We'll get rid of that. Starting in 17th. We got some room to run here. 17th. Let's say he finishes 8th. Has 3 fast laps. 46.35 points. At $8,000, that probably plays. So I think Kyle Busch is in play. So yeah, I mean, will I have a lot of Kyle Busch? Probably not, because Kyle Busch also likes to spin a lot. Kyle Spinny Busch. He's in play. There's room. I just don't know if I love the play. Now his practice speeds actually look a lot better than I thought they would. All right, our next in line here at Chase Briscoe, $7,900, starting in second. He was 14th in practice for both single lap and 5-lap consecutive average. He's got an average finish of 16.8. He finished 34th in this race last year. Now he was in Stuart Haas equipment. He's now in Joe Gibbs equipment, so he should probably finish a little better. I just, when I was talking about percentages of what I think a percentage of somebody that can potentially win, Chase Briscoe just doesn't even come into my thought process. And his practice speeds were not there to be fast enough. I mean, at best, he was average. I think an AJ and Ty Gibbs are going to eat Chase Briscoe's lunch. So He's got the one win. If anything, I see Chase Briscoe staying out for potentially, if he can take the a first place in a stage, he'll stay out and get a first place in a stage because it'll give him points towards the playoffs. So, but that if you do that, you pretty much negate yourself to probably finishing at best 7th or 8th. So we can put it on the calculator, but it's not pretty. Because like I said, I don't give him much of a chance to win. I mean, heck, it's not. I think he's probably plus 2,500, if not more, to win. So even Vegas doesn't even give him much of a hope. I mean, starting second, finishing second, lead 3 laps, it's 43.65 points. I don't see anywhere where a Chase Briscoe finishes in second even. So Denny Hamlin, who had quite a good race last weekend, considering he started 40th with a blown engine, had 0 practice. $7,700 starting in 16th. I mean, he's got a little room to run. He was 24th and 23rd in practice, single lap to 5 lap. He finished 38th with a blown engine in this race last year. And his practice speeds were never better than average. Well, I think for, 2 laps, he was better than average. That makes it real tough. I mean, when you've got a Chase Elliott who was way better than average and a Kyle Larson who was way better than average. Now, Denny Hamlin's $7,700 compared to those guys being $10,000. There is a price savings here, but I don't see, even with his practice speeds, that it turns out all that well. 16th. I mean, even if he gets to 5th, it's 50.45. I mean, I guess that does play. So, I mean, I'm not a complete, absolute fade with Denny Hamlin, but this practice sheet really kind of tells a story where they really were not handling very well. And Denny Hamlin, pretty much said he is not that great at road courses. Ryan Blaney, 7,500, starting in 7th. Practiced in 7th and 6th, single lap to 5 lap consecutive average. He has an average finish on road courses of 18th and 14.7 average finish. His practice speeds were okay, but they were a little out there. He went off track once, or there was a car that went off track in front of him. I can't remember exactly, but still never better than AJ. Not any better than Ty Gibbs, and he's starting in 7th. I think he might finish where he starts, and I think that's a good day for it. And that's not going to play. I mean, 7th to 7th. No fast laps, no laps led, gives you 37 points. I mean, it's 7,500. We're into the ballpark and into the realm of starting to get to value. But the 37 points isn't going to play for value. Even if he's 5,500, 37 points doesn't play. He's going to need to get to probably at least 4th or 3rd. And I just don't know if, number one, Penske at Sonoma can do that. And I'm not sure Ryan Blaney at Sonoma can do that. So I'm probably going to be a pretty heavy fade on Ryan Blaney because of his starting spot. I would much rather take his teammate, Austin Cindric, at $7,400, who has, in the Xfinity Series, he was really good at road courses. But in the Cup Series, he's got a 20.4 average finish for the last 5 races and a 15th place average finish over 24 races. He's got 3 top 5s, but he does have 10 top 10s out of 24 starts. So 38% of the time he's finishing in the top 10, starting in 24th. Practice speeds were at average, but he's starting a little bit worse than average. So 24th to 10th probably ends up playing. Let's put it on the chart here. 24th to 10th. 48 points. That at 7,400, that probably ends up playing. So I'll definitely have some ownership in Austin Cindric, and $100 cheaper than Ryan Blaney, who's starting in 7th. He's probably going to get more ownership than Ryan Blaney. Now, Ryan Blaney has Ryan Blaney name, but I'm going to fade off of Ryan Blaney. And then the third Penske car, Joey Logano, $7,200, starting in 22nd. He did not look great in practice. Even his practice speeds were okay. 13th in single lap, 9th in 5-lap consecutive average. He's got an 18.4 average finish for the last 5 road courses we're looking at. His practice speeds were better than average, and honestly, he was not as fast in single lap as Ryan Blaney, but he was more consistent throughout his practice speeds. Now, he had a couple laps where he had to pretty much stop because he went off track. Out of the 3 Penske cars, I'll take the Austin Cindric car over everyone else. Joey Logano ends up being in play, but I think probably best is 9th. I mean, that's 48.45 points. It plays. I don't love the play. I also don't love Joey Logano either. I've talked about that multiple times on this stream. So take my non-love for Joey Logano to heart here. And I think number-wise, he ends up being in play. I just don't like Joey Logano, so probably won't play him a whole lot. I'll have him in some lineups. I'll have him probably 10%. Because he is cheap enough. And he's starting far enough back, there's place differential. Daniel Suarez, who does have a win here at Sonoma, but that seems to be the highlight of Daniel Suarez's road course career. He's got 6 races where he's finished top 10, which happened to be top 5. 1 win out of 37 total starts. And only 16 of 37 times has he finished in the top 20 on road courses. He has a worse than 20th place average finish. He's starting in 19th, and his practice speeds were not very good. And he's been cut from Trackhouse. Yes, he's trying to probably race for a new contract with another team. I just don't know if that's going to happen, at least this weekend. And even, starting in 19th, he's going to need to finish 10th, 8th, 7th, somewhere between 7th and 10th to potentially be in play. Well, he's worse than average. 8th in single lap and 21st in 5-lap. There's just nothing here that makes me. I would rather take Joey Logano, who I don't like. I'll take that over Daniel Suarez. There's 3 more spots of place differential. Now our favorite Chaos driver, Carson, the Chaos Hocevar, $7,000, who wrecked like 6 cars last week. Carson's going to be a great driver at some point once he gets matured. $7,000, starting in 23rd. He's kind of like Daniel Suarez, though. It's just his practice here was not good. He was not good at Mexico. He was really not good at Chicago. I'd rather wait, and not that we have to wait for anything because we just get a fresh new slate next week. But yeah, there's just nothing here. He spun at least once, if not twice, I think, in practice. And like I said before, the entire Spires team did not look good. But if anybody's going to possibly make a rally out of Spire, it's going to be Michael McDowell out of road course. Probably the second best option is going to be Justin Haley, who, what happened to that guy this year? He just disappeared. But even if Carson Hocevar gets to his average finish of 19th, it's only 29 points. I don't think he even gets that high. He's going to need a ton of help or a ton of attrition, and Sonoma is just not known for attrition. We average, I think, 4 cars not finishing the race. Well, when you got 37 cars starting, That still leaves 32 to 33 cars on the lead lap or only one lap down. Bubba Wallace, 6,900, starting in 30th. I mean, at least Bubba Wallace has got some room to run. It didn't really help him out a lot last week because he lost his mind and tried to get in a blank match with Alex Bowman for whatever it was they were racing for, like 12th, and didn't have the tires to do that and ended up trying to clear himself on Alex Bowman's bumper. Well, that didn't do him a whole lot of good because that sent him to the back. He was lucky to be able to finish the race, but I mean, no wonder he is starting in 30th. He was never really better than average in practice. This track is, out of all the road courses, this one is the most technical. The only one that may have been more technical would be Coda on the long course. Coda on the short course that they raced this year was not as technical. The long course is much more technical. But yeah, I mean, Bubba Wallace has definitely improved a lot on road courses. Don't get me wrong. But this is concerning. The 2311 thing is concerning. I'll have some ownership in Bubba Wallace because he's $6,900 starting in 30th. And his average finish is 20th. I mean, that's 40.9. That almost gets you to the 45 points that you need at $6,900. Oh, that's 30th. Hold on, let's move this. 30th to, let's say he gets to 15th. 43.9. That gets real close to being, depending on how the pricing works out for all that, it will put him either in or just outside optimal lineup. If he gets up to 12th, it definitely puts him probably in the optimal lineup for his price. 13th gets, it's close. So top 15 for Bubba Wallace starting in 30th with practice laps that look like this. He's going to need some help from attrition. So, which is possible, but the averages are not there. Ryan Preece at $6,700 starting in 20th. His practice speeds were 17th and 16th. He does never finish in the top 5, and twice he has finished in the top 10. 3 times out of his total career for a 21.3 average finish. He was better than average. I mean, he was better than Bubba Wallace in practices. Bubba Wallace, or Ryan Preece is starting 10 spots better. But he also didn't look bad in practice at all. Very consistent across the board. You know, if we think he can get up to 12th, 39 points. And maybe he gets 2 fast laps. 2, not 3, 2. 39.9 points. At $6,700, he's going to need a little bit more than that. He's going to probably need to get to a top 10. It's possible. Practice speeds were actually okay. He quietly could be a sneaky pick. I don't mind the Ryan Preece play. There is some room to run at $6,700. Along with Brad Keselowski. Starting in 21st, he's got an average finish of 23.2, which is a good. It's 25th and 20th, and a single lap and 5 lap average. That's not great. Let's look at his practice speeds. Average at best, and he had an issue there. Yeah, I mean, if I'm running the 40 lineups, I have probably 10 to 13% Brad Keselowski. I'll have 12 to 15% of Ryan Preece. That's kind of where these things are going to fall for me, I think. They're not an absolute fade, but I don't love the plays either. Yeah, Brad Keselowski's going to need to get to 12th at least. Probably a top 10. His total career on road courses, 17.5. 7 times he's finished in the top 10 out of 51 total starts. Oof, okay. That's tough. Todd Gilliland, $6,400 starting in 35th. In the last 5 races on road courses, he does not have a top 5, but twice he's finished in the top 10, 3 times in the top 20. I think if I remember all those, he actually qualified a lot better. Starting in 35th, it's going to be a long day for Todd Gilliland. An average finish of 19.2, or his total 21 starts at 19.5, and his practice speeds were where they should be for somebody starting in 35th. Not great. I mean, the scary thing is, I think Cody Ware actually might have better practice speeds than Todd Gilliland. Well, I've got a comparison here in a little bit for that. Starting in 35th, if he makes it up to his average finish of 19th, it definitely probably is in play. It doesn't take a whole lot when you start in 35th. Finish in 19th, that's 40 points. At $6,400, that probably isn't enough to get into the optimal. 15th would definitely do it. 16th, 17th would probably definitely do it. The problem is, at starting in 35th, Todd Gilliland will probably get a pretty large chunk of ownership. John Hunter Nemechek, $6,200 starting in 18th. He was quietly one of the best picks for Mexico. And he was having a decent race at Chicago last week. I can't remember where he ended up finishing. I have it right here. Hold on one second. Chicago Street Course John Hunter Nemechek finished 15th. So yeah, I mean, good finish for him. He's been very consistent on getting much better finishes this year than where he had gotten last year. He was 10th in single lap, 12th in 5-lap consecutive average. He finished 29th in this race last year, but this team is completely different than last year. You can almost throw last year's stats out of the window, but they're still there, so we still look at them. Practice-wise, he fired off really fast and then became really, really bad. I don't know what happened here, but that is one ugly progression line for, if we considering AJ only fluctuated a second and a half. John Hunter literally went from 77 to almost 81. It's almost 4-second fall off there. Yeah, something definitely became amiss. And starting in 18th, I mean, honestly, I think probably the best we're looking at is a 6th. I mean, that's 50 points. I think that's the absolute best, which would, I mean, absolutely play optimal all day long. 12th doesn't get it. 8th probably gets in there. So 8th place or better for John Hunter Nemechek. I think it's definitely possible. But so is Zane Smith. The problem is 18th and 12th, there's 6 points of place differential in between John Hunter and Zane Smith. But Zane quietly has been doing really, really well on road courses. Practice speeds this week were a little bit suspect. Not bad, though. Better than average. I mean, you could kind of almost put Front Row Motorsports right there with 2311 with this whole lawsuit thing and the amount of uncertainty. Now, all the teams are going to race to the end of this year. The problem is they just know that there's a potential of a massive amount of loss in funds if they get their charters taken away. $6,000 for Zane Smith starting in 12th. It plays, but it's a tough play. He's going to need to finish probably 6th. Yeah, he's going to need to get at least a 6th or a 7th or better. Possible. Could quietly or sneakily, as Family Man likes to find. I think Zane and John Hunter both are in that ballpark. I'm not going to play a lot of them, but I'll run 10%, maybe 15% of John Hunter. Noah Gregson at 5,900. Oh man, Noah, I don't know what to do with this kid. There are weeks where I think in practice he might do well. I mean, I don't know what he is in points. I think he's 32nd or 33rd in points. That's just tough. But he's right there with, I mean, all three of these drivers, Zane Smith, Noah Gregson, Todd Gillen, all with front row. And they're all battling the same type of issues that 2311 is. It's kind of like they have the lawsuit curse going against them this year. But starting at 32nd, he's got a. I don't get the whole lawsuit thing. What happened? So the appellate judge ruled in favor of NASCAR this week, which effectively gives NASCAR the ability to take back their charters. Now, it's one part of the lawsuit ruling. It's still a long way to go. This thing won't probably get decided until closer to the end of this year, but this thing will probably end up going close to the Supreme Court before it's completely decided and figured out. And it's going to cost, I bet you if they don't spend $100 million between all the parties, it'll be $150 million in lawsuits before this whole thing is said and done. But when you've got a Michael Jordan who's got money to burn at this point, $5 billion plus, he doesn't like to lose, so he's going to fight this thing all the way. But yeah, the lawsuit thing was the appellate court ruled in NASCAR's favor, which gave them the ability to take the charters away from these teams. Now, depends on how nasty NASCAR wants to be. And they've shown they want to be kind of nasty. And that's about as far as in depth that I have really gotten with the lawsuit. I just know NASCAR won this a round of appeals. It's a long way to go, but there is that possibility. But I mean, this is just, lawsuits are trying, they're expensive. Why would they want to take them away? Because they didn't sign the contract. Why would they want to take the charge away? Because NASCAR, each charter is worth about $45 million is the estimate now. I mean, that's 5 charters. That's potentially $250 million that NASCAR could sell them on the open market. And that's the nasty part about this song. I mean, Front Row had one, and they've bought 2. I think they probably have $40 to $50 million tied up in charter purchases, plus the upgrade in equipment and staffing. And 2311 easily has that much, if not more, wrapped up into their charters. Well, they're not happy that Michael Jordan, 2311, and Front Row are suing them. And NASCAR has always notoriously played very, very dirty with people who have tried to take legal action against them. So they will take those charters away very quickly, because NASCAR is a dirty, money-hungry corporation. It sucks that I love the sport. I hate the operating body behind NASCAR, though. They are one of the most corrupt sports, and they're right there with F1. Motorsports in general is just typically corrupt, top to bottom. The only one at this point that I can see that seems to be doing the right thing is the late model series that is owned by Justin Marks, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and Kevin Harvick. They own the late model series, and they seem to be doing things on the up and up, and all the drivers are really, really happy. And you can also look at the high limits that Kyle Larson and a couple of the dirt race guys started that are paying big bucks for the dirt racers now. Seem to be doing stuff, but they're not at the level of NASCAR and Indy and F1. But all of those politics in those big sports is just wild. If you really start to dig into it in history, and I don't have time to really go into it, but F1 is absolutely as corrupt as our U.S. government, if not worse. And that's saying a whole lot after this week. We won't get into that. But yeah. So just Noah Gragson, I mean, a 21st place finish gets him 32 points. I'm not sure that's enough. He's going to need to probably finish 16th. Yeah, 16th or better for a Noah Gragson, who has an average finish of 21st. So he's going to have to finish a lot better than what his average is. And he was at best average in practice. You got to remember, average is about 17th or 18th. So, flip a coin. There's room to run for Noah. So I will take some ownership in Noah, knowing that it's a tough hill. Justin Haley did have an off-track experience in practice, along with the rest of Spire Motorsports cars. He practice speeds was 35th. He's starting 29th. He finished 33rd in this race last year. Has an average finish of 24.8 at the 5 races we're comparing to, and a 21.4. And oh boy, his practice speeds were not good at all. Way slower than average. Starting in 29th, I would rather take a Noah Gragson, who actually kind of bumped around the average line, than a Justin Haley, who never even touched the average line. So his average finishes is 22nd, and he's starting in 29th. It plays, he's going to need to finish kind of like what we just talked about, Noah Gragson. He's going to probably need to finish 16th or better. And at 5,800, I mean, a 16th place finish gets you 43 points. It's in play. His practice speeds were not good. They'll make adjustments, but I don't know if he's a 16th place finisher. At least so far, he has not been. I would much rather probably take our next driver, Cole Custer, starting in 27th, who has been running much better as of recently. And if we look at he was 30th and 25th in 5-lap consecutive average. Practice speeds are slower than average, but we're talking like 21st, 22nd, 23rd. He's starting 27th. And he's been outperforming in races more than he has in practice. So, starting in 27th, I mean, he's in the same boat. He's going to need to get to a top 15. 27th. 16th doesn't cut it. 15 gets real close. 14th definitely probably puts him in there. So, a 14th or better starting in 27th, I think it's definitely possible. I mean, I would put. I mean, honestly, you can interchange these guys. You can go a Noah Gragson in one lineup, a Justin Haley in a lineup, and a Cole Custer in a lineup. They're all cheap enough. They don't need to do a whole lot to get you into decent points. The problem is getting them to do a whole lot is a little tough. Eric Jones at $5,500 starting in 31st. He's got an average finish of 24.2 for the 5 races that we're comparing to, or 19.6 over the course of his 37 total starts. But half the time he finishes in the top 20. So that is one thing. Practice speeds, once again, never got faster than average, but never, I mean, he hovered at 79. The average is slightly under 78. So he's about a second off. But starting in 31st, I think I would rather take an Eric Jones than I would a Noah Gragson. And at $5,500, you've got some savings there. But the problem is he's going to get some ownership. So, I mean, all these guys are just going to have a little luck farther away. They're going to have some pit stops that go right, some strategies that go right, for them to get into the teens or better. And that's kind of what we're looking for. And one of these drivers that we're talking about is going to end up doing that. But I really don't think it's going to be Austin Dillon. He was 33rd in single lap. His average on road courses over the last 5 races is 32.6. His average finishes total is 23.3. And his practice speeds, he only made it 6 laps of total practice. I just don't. He had 11 laps of practice, but only 6 of them were even recordable fast enough. Sure, it doesn't take a whole lot at $5,300 to get value out of him. But it's still at least a top 20. That's the top 17, really. 42 points is probably about where he's going to need to be at 5,300. He could probably get to 40 points, but I mean, honestly, that makes a real interesting puzzle for these guys to make optimals. Same thing with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He's starting in 34th, and honestly, looking at his practice speeds here, I would take Ricky Stenhouse Jr. over an Austin Dillon or probably any of the last 4 guys we're talking about. At least he was consistent throughout his entire run between 78 and 79. I mean, his average finishes are not great. They're 27.4 and 21.6. We're asking for a big jump in what these guys normally do. But one of these guys that we're talking about in this 5,200 to 5,700, 5,800 are probably going to make the optimal lineup. 1 or 2 of these guys are going to make the optimal lineup. Which one? It's all strategy. And right now, I mean, looking at practice speeds, I like Ricky Stenhouse Jr.'s practice speeds so far probably better than most. Josh Berry starting in 25th. I think he's starting too far up. He's got an average finish of 28.6 or 26.4. His average finishes are worse than his starting spot. His practice speeds were at least better than what we've been looking at, but I would rather take a Ricky Stenhouse Jr. with the 34th. He's got 9 better spots and probably has about the same practice speeds. Thank you. I appreciate that. Kryptonian? I think that's how you say your name. I appreciate that. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. But Josh Berry starting 225th, I think that's probably the high end of where he finishes. So, I mean, if that's the case, the point's just not even close to being there. Let's say he gets to 19th, that's a huge improvement for Josh Berry at road courses. He's just not known for it. That's 30 points. That's not going to cut it. Or Ty Dillon, starting in 26. I mean, I know it's one spot different, but Ty Dillon's got a little something extra to try to race for, which is that in-season tournament, and he just has been getting honestly lucky. But his practice speeds are actually not bad, and you have to remember Ty Dillon's teammate is AJ Allmendinger. Well, what happened with Justin Haley when AJ Allmendinger was his teammate? Justin Haley improved every time at road courses. Ty Dillon is doing the same thing. AJ is coaching Ty Dillon to better speeds. And look at his average speeds. They are not far off from average. To be starting in 26, I'm willing to take some shots. I mean, we're talking about a $5,000 Ty Dillon. Yeah, all day. I'll take some. I'll take some Ty Dillon. I think he's riding a lucky streak right now. And it's not going to take a whole lot. I mean, get to 18th, 33 points at $5,000. That might actually play. It's the very, very bottom of the top 15. Realistically, he's probably going to need to get closer to 15th or 14th. But honestly, I think it's possible for Ty Dillon to do that. They're willing to throw absolute anything and everything against the wall to try to get him on to the next round. I mean, you got to think about it. It's $1 million for them to win the in-season tournament. And we're talking about one of the cheapest guys and one of the guys furthest back in points that has the potential to upset the apple cart and win $1 million. Trust me, Kaulig Racing will throw whatever they have to at that car to get it to beat. I think he's got to beat Alex Bowman this week. But, I mean, hell, he beat Ty Dillon, and who did he beat last week? Brad Keselowski or something? Yeah, I mean, he just keeps kind of getting lucky. Raleigh Herbst at $4,900. Now, the one positive thing about Raleigh Herbst is he ran the Xfinity race today and actually did an okay job. Now, we're two different cars, pretty much. But anytime that you can get an extra 75 laps in race trim, it doesn't matter what car you're in, at the same track you're going to race today. Now, the problem is he's starting 28th, and his practice speeds were not that great. His average finish is 21st. And if we look at his practice speeds, they're not pretty. It's really, really not pretty. But, we'll put him on the calculator because that's what we do for everybody. I don't want to sell him short here. Get him to his average finish of 21st. 28 points. Average is not going to cut it. He's going to need to get to that 17th, 16th, probably. Probably 15th. 16th or 15th or better. Cody Ware, $4,700. Oh my God. That wreck last week was horrific. I cannot believe NASCAR did not throw the caution as soon as that happened. Other than the fact, I don't think NASCAR caution people, the booth, was even at the track. I think for what I heard was literally all of the decisions on when cautions were being thrown were being called from Charlotte, North Carolina. That's insane. But I also understand it's not like they've got a big suite or press box that can see the whole track at Chicago. So why do they need to be there? I mean, I get it, but it's crazy to think that literally all the decisions are being made from Charlotte all the way to Chicago. And they didn't see that wreck. They need better corner workers at these road courses. But Cody Ware, honestly, for somebody who's starting 36th, who's consistently, slowly been having better finishes. He wrecked last week when he was running, I think, 19th or something and finished like 22nd. It was not a bad day for Cody Ware, even with that wreck. I think he definitely made the top 15 in points last week. Cody Ware. Well, maybe he didn't. I thought he did. Captain Legg made it, starting 33rd to finish 19th. Ty Dillon made the top 15 in points. I thought Cody Ware did. Darn. Oh, well. He's quietly been the one that I've kind of started to like Cody Ware because I listened to Door Bumper Clear and I can't remember his name, Baldwin. Tommy Baldwin is on that show and he does stuff with Rick Ware's team. Catherine Legg, who made the top 15 in points last week. But, let me tell you, this is bad. He was 37th. Being 37th in practice, which is last, doesn't do anything until you look at the chart. She never crossed 81 seconds. AJ was in the 76, 77 second range the entire time. She never crossed 81 seconds. Now, she had a broken piece on her car that they ended up fixing, and she did not qualify. But it's a tough hill to climb for Catherine Legg. I don't have much interest. Sorry. All right, so what we've got here. Actually, I wanted to show this first. These are the practice speeds from qualifying 31st through 36. So what I was looking for is who potentially has the best opportunity to potentially, and all these don't look good, but which one of these guys in practice actually looks like they might have the car that could actually potentially move up through the field. And honestly, it's the red Ricky Stenhouse right here that out of all of them seem to be pretty good. Noah Gragson has a couple laps better than average, but he's real wonky all over the place. Eric Jones, the one in black here, is not bad. Cody Ware pretty much stays much slower than everyone else. Austin Dillon is also right there, pretty bad with everybody else. So realistically, kind of coming in the 30s. If I'm looking for somebody that might potentially be somebody, I think it's the Eric Jones, Noah Gregson, or Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Those three might be the three that I will target towards the back. Now, I mean, I guess Bubba Wallace, he's in the gray. Where does he go? He comes down here, he goes up here, back down here. So I guess you could throw Eric Jones, Bubba Wallace, Noah Gregson, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Then if I look at the fastest guys consistently, and honestly, it's the two we've talked about the most. It's AJ and Shane. And then other than the spike here with Ty, he's very quick. But you can really see where all of these guys are very, very consistent and all real close to each other. But positions in the race are going to make a big, big deal. All right, so SVG, start up front, finish up front. I give them a 30 to 35% chance to do it. So I'm going to run probably 30, 35%, maybe 40%. And this chart I don't love this chart. It's just kind of a reminder of who I like and who I don't like. SVG is definitely in play. Christopher Bell can be in play, but probably, I guess he could play with SVG, but then you got to start to save some money real quickly. Chris Buescher is absolutely in play at $8,600 starting in 14th. I like that. Tyler Reddick is only in play if I'm taking SVG out. Chase Elliott can be in play along with SVG, but then I got to start to save money. Ross Chastain only if SVG is out. Larson is in, kind of like Chase Elliott and Chris Buescher with Shane Van Gisbergen, but we've got to start to save money and quickly. There's not a whole lot of great options to save money. Ty Gibbs and AJ, they're in if SVG is out. So it's kind of like if you're going to build the lineup, you build an SVG lineup and you build some stuff around it. Then you just build the Ty Gibbs lineup, you build the AJ lineup, and then you kind of make adjustments and kind of go from there. That's kind of how I end up building these road course lineups. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Today for Xfinity, it definitely worked. The ones that I probably don't have a whole lot of interest in, Austin Dillon, Cody Ware. I'll have some Ty Dillon, don't love it. I'll have some Ty Dillon, I don't love it. Probably will stay far away from Josh Berry and Justin Haley. Ricky will probably be in play. Catherine Legg, nope, no interest there at all. I definitely like the Noah play. I like the Eric Jones play in the 30s. I don't love. Bubba Wallace definitely could easily be in play. Joey is in play regardless. I hate it, but Michael McDowell starting 15th. I think it's a really potentially good play because I think they'll make the adjustments they need on that car if they showed up and didn't practice that well. But yeah, I mean, these builds are going to be a little bit interesting because of the pricing structure on this thing. And you just have to start with, okay, who's going to win? And then build place differential from there. You can run who's going to win, and then 3 place differentials, 1 decent finisher that's starting kind of in the top 15 that's going to finish in the top 5, and then 1 value pick. That's kind of how I probably will end up doing most of my builds. So, but either way, we'll see if my guy Kyle Larson can get a win and get back on the right track of things. I don't think it's a Kyle Larson type of weekend, but it could be. Yeah, just things just haven't really. I don't feel, and I'm a Kyle. I'm a Kyle Larson fan, so he's my number 1 driver. But I don't know if this is the weekend. I think he could get a top 5 or in the top 3. He could possibly get a win, but I don't. I put it at like a 3 to 5% chance. So, all right. If anybody's got thoughts, questions, wants, concerns, whatever you need, make sure you hit me up in the chat. I appreciate everyone turning in. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. And next weekend we are. Where are we next weekend? God, my weeks have gotten all sorts of screwy. Where are we next weekend? Let me see. Schedule 2025. We are Three-course Sonoma, Dover. Ooh, I like Dover. Yeah, we're at Dover for next week. Then Indianapolis, and then Iowa. We got Richmond coming up. That's right in my backyard, pretty much. So I appreciate everyone tuning in, and we will see everyone next week for the Dover breakdown. It'll be another Saturday night Saturday night video, probably about 9 o'clock. So thank you for tuning in, and good luck. And if you have any thoughts or questions, make sure you hit me up in the chat, and I'll be more than happy to try to answer it. But thanks, guys. Have a great weekend, and good luck. Take home a bag, and if you do, make sure you hit me up. Bye.
Gentlemen, start your engines. 40 cars coming to life.
He still takes the field? Yep. Love it. Get a good deep breath. Get ready to roll here. Only about one thing tonight, getting the W's, so gotta be around the end to do that. Get ready to roll tonight, boys. Let's go have some fun.
Don't get me any more fired up than I already am.
All the way to the checkered. You are fine. Nobody's got to run. Checker time, baby! Really proud of you, man. Drove your butt off tonight. We had the best car here, bud. Yeah, boys. Way to rebound. Great job. Great job, bud. Really good job. Appreciate you hanging in there with us all weekend. What a weekend. Good job. Thank you.